And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that it helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every day. Now, y'all, today we're going to be talking about your boy. Look at him on the screen, y'all. Do y'all like that outer space thing that I did with him there when he was giving his address to the UN? You know, we're talking about the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, the guy who is overseeing yet another year of practical bankruptcy for his city. Did y'all know that the credit rating of Chicago is being downgraded due to his budget? See, this is the problem with Brandon Johnson, y'all. What he wants to do is he has a $1.1 to $1.2 billion budget shortfall. So in other words, they need to spend about $1 billion, $1.2 billion more than they actually are taking in, right? Something like that. You can think about it like that. So most people say, well, look at everything that you're committed to spending. You probably have to cut a lot of that stuff. So most people say, look at everything you're committed to spending on, and you probably have to cut some things, right? In fact, he even ordered a report that they spent $3 million on from a world-renowned accounting firm asking, hey, what can we do with this budget? And the accounting firm said, well, you need to cut a lot. And he's like, well, what about the black and brown people? He's like, what about the corporations? He ordered this report, y'all. He didn't even care what they said. He just wanted them to say what he wanted them to back up everything he was saying. What about the working humans, the black, brown, and colored folks, and the corporations, and Donald Trump? Did you say something about Donald Trump, Ernst and Young? So anyway, y'all, today we're going to be taking a look at the fact that he's falling back. All of his audacious plans are unraveling. I mean, his budget plans, particularly his head tax. Y'all, he wants to charge you. His city needs, just like all cities, his city needs you. You, I'm talking to you and everybody else. He needs you to come to Chicago and create jobs for his people. But he also wants to charge you $21 per month per employee to do so, y'all. So figure that out. And so now he's getting pushed back on that. He's having to fall back. Still hasn't totally abandoned his ridiculous plans, but that comes next. And y'all, in today's video, we're going to take a look at where's the money going? Well, they're paying out over $100 million, practically $200 million to victims of a police officer who was fabricating evidence and locking people up who were innocent. Millions of dollars on unnecessary travel to the Chicago public schools people. Of course, Brandon Johnson is a former teacher, so they get their cut. And generally just a terrible budget all around, y'all. And also we're going to take a look at what's happening with ICE and CBP, the immigration enforcement in the city, y'all. So without further lead in, let's go ahead and hop into it. But before we do, y'all, we are launching our official Patreon. So if you want to be a founding member on our Patreon, we have just 222 slots, y'all. If you want to be a founding member, go down, click the very first link in the description, and you're gonna feel good about this, y'all, because believe it or not, we are an actual paralegal school, and we help people get their paralegal certificate and get working in the paralegal field. And all of the proceeds from our Patreon, when you enroll as a founding member, all of that is gonna go to scholarships for people who would like to study at our institute, y'all. So click that first link down in the description. Join us as a founding member, y'all. This deal will not come back. Now let's get into the story.
Following a Veterans Day event in Little Village, mayoral ally Alderman Byron Sigcho-Lopez confronted Governor JB Pritzker about why he's against the head tax.
Yeah, you want to talk about taxes?
Yes, and you oppose it.
Videos were shot and shared on social media. The fight over Mayor Brandon Johnson's proposal to tax companies with more than 100 employees is getting louder as Johnson scrambles for votes.
We have a choice here. Either corporations are going to pay or working class people are going to pay more in property taxes and grocery taxes.
Y'all, we have a choice here. Either corporations are going to pay or working class people are going to pay. Y'all, where do these people's understanding of the economy come from? Do corporations just, do they mint money out of thin air, or does their money typically come from working class people who are patronizing these corporations? If you make them pay more, guess who's going to shoulder the price increase that the corporations are going to reflect in order to recoup your dumb head tax? It's the working class people. Okay, the working class people are going to pay either way. And guess what? The working class people are the same people who are going to benefit most from Chicago's budget, from their budget outlay, from their expenditures. The working class people are going to pay. There's no way they won't. And the working class people are going to benefit. So there's a 1-to-1 ratio there.
The Chicago Teachers Union is behind a campaign called Chicagoans Against Trump Cuts. CTU is spending money targeting wards where alders are against the head tax or undecided.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, while we're talking about working class people paying for things, how about these lavish trips that the working class people are paying for the Chicago Public Schools employees to go on to the tune of millions and millions of dollars per year?
Well, Chicago Public Schools is under fire for some money that was spent on student and staff trips. And this is coming after a new report from the CPS Inspector General that alleges travel abuse.
We're talking last-minute flights and limo rides, all charged to taxpayers.
Well, Dana and Adrena, CPS leaders released a statement earlier this morning emphasizing its commitment to fiscal responsibility. That's a quote from them. They say that they take the findings of this report seriously. They've created a travel review committee, and they also in recent weeks put a freeze on almost all employee travel. The city inspectors were careful to note that they recognize the value of professional development seminars and student travel. They also say they don't think employees were trying to game the system. The Inspector General's team also found CPS trips were often booked without pre-approvals, often spent more than was allowed, and took part in activities that had only quote-unquote dubious value to students. Travel spending more than doubled between 2019 and 2024. This at a time when CPS came out with the news that it faced a multi-million-dollar budget gap.
See, y'all, I've said it once. I'm going to say it again. I'll say it a million times. Okay. This is all smoke and mirrors, people. These are ideas. They sound good. And if you could implement them perfectly, they would work out. Many of these ideas that the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, many of his ideas, if you could perfectly or even reasonably well implement his ideas, they might work out. You know, a lot of the socialistic ideas sound great. And if you could make them work, they probably would work, you know, but they don't. That's the problem. The problem is they don't work. And people keep trying them over and over and over again because they sound good to people who are hurting, to people who they're looking at their neighbors and they're like, hey, they look like they're doing better than I'm doing. The politicians come along and they promise you, hey, you know, we can take some of his and give it to you. Okay, yeah, I'll vote for that. But it never works out. So that's the issue here. So it's not that the idea doesn't sound good. Of course it sounds good. It's just impractical.
The head tax is a job-crushing tax. It's a disincentive for businesses to grow in Chicago and bring new jobs to Chicago.
Business and civic organizations are working just as hard to urge alders to vote no on a budget with a head tax. The mayor says money generated for the tax will pay for public safety, but the business community says it has already contributed.
The civic committee and business organizations throughout Chicago raised $150 million for public safety. I think the business community stepped up for public safety.
The money includes jobs for South and West Side residents. And while outside interests wage their wars for and against the head tax, inside City Hall, the mayor and Budget Committee Chairman Alderman Jason Irvin are considering raising the monthly $21 per employee tax for companies with 100 employees to 200.
I think that partially the head count's been in conversation, the rate has been in conversation, so haven't landed that plane fully yet, but I know that those are ongoing conversations.
Others say adjustments to the tax won't change alders' minds until the mayor considers more cost savings.
Why would we put ourselves in this position now when the administration is just not really taking a look at the hard decisions around right-sizing government and creating efficiencies?
As the mayor and his allies continue to work on getting more support for the head tax, the hope is to vote on the budget by next week. But Alderman Irvin says if the votes aren't there, it will be pushed to December.
And while the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago is trying to charge you to open a business and grow it in his city, right? He's trying to charge you per employee. He needs an increase in employment, but he wants to charge you for the privilege of doing so. While they're doing that, they're also paying out hundreds of millions of dollars to victims of a Chicago police officer who locked up who knows how many people, who served collectively hundreds and hundreds of years, who were innocent of the crimes. So there's that also blowing a hole in their budget.
WGN Investigates has been following this story for years, and we've watched the dollars add up. Hefty settlements for men who spent decades behind bars. When this is all said and done, taxpayers could shell out hundreds of millions of dollars linked to one former detective. But there's now a plan to potentially minimize the amount that is paid out. It may lead to smaller settlements for the victims, but quicker action in cases that have dragged on for years.
But all is not going terribly for your boy. We got news that a Chicago judge, a federal judge, is releasing 615 people detained by ICE and CBP in Chicago because they apparently violated what's called a consent decree from 2022, that they had agreed that they would carry out their duties in a specific way, and apparently they did not do that, at least according to the judge. And now, so out of 3,000 plus people that they've arrested, 615 have to be set free, y'all.
We are following breaking news out of Chicago, where a judge has just ordered hundreds of individuals detained by federal agents to be released.
Yeah, this is shocking, Kate. This is a federal judge, Jeffrey Cummings, who says that what ICE and Border Patrol have been doing in Chicago since they started Operation Midway Blitz there in September is in violation of a 2022 consent decree that keeps agents from making arrests when they do not have lawful warrants. This is called the Castagna Nava settlement. And it says that these warrantless arrests mean that these people can no longer be detained. And so 615 of them, if they haven't already been deported from the country and they're still in immigration detention, are now being ordered to be released by Friday if they can pay bond. In other words, they can't be detained without bond. That bond is set at $1,500. And once they're released, they'll be put on ankle monitors, known as alternatives to detention, something that's very common, used under previous administrations and sometimes during this administration, so that immigrants can check in with ICE as they make their way through the immigration system, whether that's to something like asylum or toward deportation. But he is saying that their detention was unlawful.
But I asked on our previous video about that topic, about setting free all of the 615 people. Like, where are they? Because Broadview, which is the scene of all of the ICE protests, at least the on location scene, Broadview doesn't hold that many people. It can't hold 615 people. So where are they being held? That's my question. There was a tour of Broadview yesterday. I'm sure they didn't see 1,000 people there. So I don't even know for sure where these people are being held at the moment. Are they even still in the United States? Have they been deported? Are they being held in another facility that people don't know about, or where people aren't protesting? Are they in another state? I don't know. But the judge and human rights activists did go and tour Broadview yesterday.
That inspection began just after 11 o'clock and ended just before 3:30. Those attorneys choosing not to speak to members of the media here at Broadview. But their focus today was on conditions inside. Have they improved? This after a federal judge described those conditions as unconstitutional. Attorneys from the government, ACLU, and MacArthur Justice Center walking right up to the door of the Broadview ICE processing facility. Magistrate Judge Laura McNally likely allowed inside through the gate, escorted by federal marshals. All of them here to inspect the facility for the first time in person after a federal judge ordered conditions must be improved for those detained inside. Allegations made in open court of vile, unsanitary conditions, overcrowding, little food or water, no hygiene products, no place to sleep, no showers, and broken, overflowing toilets.
So, y'all, this is going to be your update for the illustrious sub 10% approval rating UN appealing mayor of Chicago, your boy, Brandon Johnson. You see him on the screen. I always like saying you see him on the screen because, Frank, he always gives me a good chuckle just looking at him, y'all. Frankly, I mean, he's just an look at him. Anyway, y'all, let me know down in the comments. So today's question is going to be this. What do you think happens with his budget, y'all? Last year, the budget fight got ugly. I think it's probably going to do that this year again. I think he's going to have to scrap the head tax or reduce it so much that, I mean, it's always counterproductive to charge employers to bring employment to your city or to grow employment in your city. But I don't think the head tax survives. It's a kind of a dumb idea. Chicago had it before and they eliminated it. And now you have to be illustrious and sub 10% approval rating to say, hey, let's bring back this dumb idea that we already tried and got rid of previously. Let me know what you think down in the comments, y'all. But before you do, please stop, hit the share button. Share this video out over email, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all of your favorite social mediums. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. Y'all, check out the first link down in the description. Our Patreon is $9 a month. You will support the channel. We put additional content there, y'all. We're uploading all of our paralegal classes there so you can learn about the law. And also your subscription goes toward scholarships for people looking to get going in the paralegal field. Thank y'all for watching. Love y'all. We'll see you back in the next one.